Hi everyone, this is Sarah. How are you doing? Today I want to tell you a bit more about how to spot that you are bullied at work and what kind of behaviors constitute bullying. So bullying at work is a persistent pattern of mistreatment by others that can cause physical or emotional harm, or both, to the targeted person, to the person who's bullied. And the behaviors that bullies can use are different. They can be verbal or non-verbal, they can be openly aggressive, they can be very subtle, they can make the person who's bullied intimidated, or it can make them feel worthless. And there are two big groups of behaviors which are used by bullies. One is overt behaviors, and these are very aggressive behaviors which are usually very easy to spot because it's like shouting, yelling, slamming doors, kicking the pieces of furniture. Well, that's still happening. So that's something that is easy to notice. But and there are some other ones that are quite obvious too. But there are other behaviors. There is a whole array of more subtle behaviors that are used for bullies for bullying, and it might be much harder to recognize, but this is actually bullying. Many people who just start their new jobs, they don't think that they would be bullied there. And what happens is that even if some funny things are starting to happening, even if some of the behaviors that their bosses are presenting are quite inappropriate, maybe even unacceptable and definitely unexpected, people tend to rationalize it, and they think that, okay, I've just started working there, so there might be just some, issues, like interpersonal issues, the clash of characters, or we just need to get along, we need more time with my boss, and that's how people rationalize it. But unfortunately, in many cases, this is not that. And if you can see that after a few weeks or a month, things are not getting better and it's actually getting worse, then you may start suspecting that you're bullied. And I will tell you a bit more about those behaviors, because many people, when they experience those behaviors on a daily basis, they only realize that they have been bullied when it's much too late. They are already worn down physically, emotionally, and pretty often at that point they are made, or they prefer themselves to hand in the resignation. Two things that I also want to add to the subject, to the topic of bullying is, you have lots of psychological literature that would explain to you why some people bully, why some people are bullied. And I'm not going to argue with that, because I was trained as a psychologist myself many years ago, so I'm definitely not going to undermine anything what you can find in this sort of literature. But I think that bullying, the problem of bullying, is pretty often much easier to explain, because people who bully, if you have a bully, there is usually another person behind them in the organization that supports them, endorses them for whatever reason. Sometimes they have personal relations after work that can be of different kind. They can be friends, that they can be in a relationship of any kind. And this person who is behind and who supports the bully is usually a senior person, an overachiever, a person who brings lots of money, contracts, clients to the organization, and is untouchable. And if a person like that supports bully, stands side by side with the bully, and everyone knows that, they know that the bully is untouchable too, and the bully knows that too. And that's why they bully. Also, from my personal experience, I would say that all the bullies that I dealt with are people who have either narcissistic personality disorder or antisocial personality disorder, which is sociopathy and psychopathy. Not every sociopath or psychopath is, walking around trying to find a victim. They don't kill people, they don't do harm to little animals. No, they can just bully. That's sometimes all right for them. So that's it, yeah. It's not that it's people who are not necessarily loved in childhood and they are so poor and they bully. No, it's a completely different thing. So now what about the behaviors that are subtle but you should pay attention to? I have a little cheat sheet here because it's quite a lot of them. All those subtle behaviors, they are used by a bully to create an emotional reaction in the person who is bullied. It's usually about anxiety or fear, so that the bully can control this person and what this person does more effectively. Because if you are afraid of your boss, you will most likely not going to do anything to make them bully you more, right? So they have control over you. And what it can be, for example, deceit. It's about lying, not telling the truth, keeping some facts to themselves, creating some sort of deceit that make the bullied person to do something that otherwise they wouldn't do if they had the whole picture and all information. Then intimidation. Intimidation usually is about threats. They can be more overt or veiled, and it can be about anything. Losing your job if you don't sit at work 12 hours daily plus the weekends without pay, things like that. And unfortunately they pretty often take place. Then ignoring and isolating. Ignoring would be more like you are not included, or sometimes, at times you are omitted when your team or your department goes for a function or for some other extracurricular activity, and somehow you just didn't get the message about it and you never went, and then you just learn about it when it was already long gone. So that. Then isolation would be more about either excluding somebody psychologically or also physically by putting his office somewhere very, very far away in the building, and the person is basically physically isolated. No one comes around, they don't really go to see other people, so that's also. Then smearing campaigns, telling gossip or different things that have nothing to do with the reality about the bullied person. Bullies go around, they spread different gossip to other people, and what you can, well, you usually don't know that because people most likely will not come to you and tell you that unless you're very lucky, but in the most cases you will just see that people start behaving differently. They may not see you anymore in like public places, common places at work. They will pretend they can't see you. They will not be saying hello, or maybe they used to be quite cordial with you, but then they just become really dry and they don't want to talk to you more than just hello. That's one of the things you should pay attention to. If it starts happening, well, there is definitely something that is brewing at the background. Another thing, pitting employees against each other. Bullies like when people who are in their charge, they hate each other, they compete with each other, they backstab one another. That's something what bully wants, because when they divide people, they know that there will be no alliances against them, against the bullies. So that's why they do that. Another thing is different mood swings that you can observe in a bully. That can be everything. I mean, they come and go without any reason, without any external reason. Maybe sometimes something is rationalized, but it's usually just, it's like throwing tantrums, barking orders, or general barking at people, or shouting. That's quite common. And the last thing that I want to tell you is about impossible or changing expectations. If you overload your employee so that they have to sit at work 15 hours a day plus the weekends that are unpaid, and they are still not able to do the work, not because they are incompetent or something, that's bullying as well. Changing deadlines, that's also something that's taken into consideration when you think about bullying. Hope it helps. Thank you so much for watching, and see you soon. Bye.